Podcast 103. Culture is the difference between composition and frame. ISBN 978-1-63848-418-9 and publication 197. Historically, explanation has been associated with causation, and in an attempt to explain the positive theory, culture is the difference between composition and frame. ISBN 978-1-63848-418-9 is like a phenomenon that identifies its cause. In this instance, it is equally important that as an author that I show and don't tell, while on the other hand, it is unquestionably vital for me as a cinematographer, media arts specialist, licensed cultural practitioner, and publisher to make sure that I show and don't tell, a philosophy advocated by Chris J. Wilson. Of note, via the Annals of History lens, the history of photography began in remote antiquity with the discovery of two critical principles: camera obscura, image projection, and the observation that some substances are visibly altered by exposure to light. There are no artifacts or descriptions that indicate any attempt to capture images with light-sensitive materials prior to the 18th century. Hypothetically speaking, it appears that the analyzed data regarding photography suggests that it comports itself as the art of capturing light with a camera. Plausibly, culture may be a vehicle that facilitates the difference between composition and frame. So as not to conflate this issue, I will examine in detail culture, since it conceivably is interpreted as the difference between composition and frame, which have intrinsic value, provides important social and economic benefits, with improved learning and health, increased tolerance, and opportunities to come together with others. At the end of the day, culture enhances our quality of life and increases overall well-being for both individuals and communities. I suppose that all things being equal in this detailed statement, there is value to philosophize this conversation, followed by the question, what are the causes of these cultural differences? I must confess that the causes of cultural differences have to do with the fact that most people grow up in a certain restricted environment, their natural environment, their family, tongue, country, etc. In addition, the fact that a person reacts to their specific natural environment means they create specific daily habits, stereotypes, methods of satisfying their requirements, etc. Ostensibly, some of these differences can be interpreted or includes various beliefs, behaviors, languages, practices, and expressions which are considered unique to members of a specific ethnicity, race, or national origin. Such reasoning draws my attention to research because it actually shows that people's personalities are much the same around the world, and culture is often used as an excuse to do things differently. This line of intuition is espoused by Joe Girard. To put this conversation in context, or in other words succinctly, this discourse evolves around culture, since it is an umbrella term which encompasses the social behavior and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities, and habits of the individuals in these groups. Culture is also juxtaposed against the backdrop of composing and framing, which seemingly have a symbiotic relationship. Gestalt and analysis of therapeutic cultures of the world. These are coupled together. With Edward Tyler's extraction, humans acquire culture through the learning processes of enculturation and socialization, which is shown by the diversity of cultures across societies. It would be very remiss of me not to mention the fact that there are different types of composition in art, since I am discussing photography, because photography is art and art is photography, which comprises 8 main techniques: simplicity photography, symmetrical balance, asymmetrical balance, radial balance, rule of thirds, leading lines, golden ratio, and framing photography. The term composition means putting together. It can be thought of as the organization of the elements of art according to the principles of art. Composition can apply to any work of art, from music through writing and into photography, that is arranged using conscious thought. Composition refers to the way the various elements in a scene are arranged within the frame. As was previously indicated, these are not hard and fast rules, but guidelines. That said, many of them have been used in art for thousands of years, and they really do help achieve more attractive compositions. In visual arts, and particularly cinematography, framing is the presentation of visual elements in an image, especially the placement of the subject in relation to other objects. Therapeutic photography involves taking, analyzing, and using photos for the purpose of personal healing, growth, or understanding, whether done consciously or unconsciously. By actively constructing, exploring, and reflecting on photographs, by pairing it with creative writing, you are able to learn more about yourself and how you see the world. These terms, therapeutic photography and phototherapy, are often used interchangeably. However, it's important to note the distinction between the two, as phototherapy refers to techniques put into practice by a trained therapist and/or mental health professional, hence phototherapy. Therapeutic photography is often a practice and set of techniques that you use on your own outside of a professional setting, which can also enhance the work you do in therapy and with any mental health professionals you are working with. In this conversation, although showing is essentially about making scenes vivid, yet if you try to do it constantly, the parts that are supposed to stand out won't, and your readers will get exhausted. Showing requires more words. Telling may cover a greater span of time more concisely. Conversely, show, don't tell is a technique used in various kinds of texts to allow the reader to experience the story through action, words, thoughts, senses, and feelings rather than through the author's exposition, summarization, and description. Culture around the world. The most persuasive element of society is culture, which consists of the language, values, beliefs, rules, behaviors, and physical artifacts of a society. In other words, one may think of it as society's personality. Culture can give us codes of conduct, a proper and acceptable way of living life. All of recorded human history is full of the rise and fall of different cultures. Roman, Greece, Mongolia, Native American, Viking, Aztec, and Mayan, to name only a few. Each culture and society has its characteristics that make it distinct from the others. There are 195 countries in the world today. This total comprises 193 countries that are member states of the United Nations and 2 countries that are non-member observer states. Cultural photography is the art of taking photos to tell about people, daily life, or a culture. Overall, this conversation is a continuum, which was juxtaposed against the background that there are different norms, standards, and expectations in cultures for behaving. Norms are divided into two types: cultural variables, which are characterized as differences in behavior, outlook, and values between people from different societies, body language, styles of humor, and attitudes toward family, authority figures, religion, gender roles, and time can all be very different in different cultures. That could very well provide the link to my positive theory. Culture is the difference between composition and frame. This academic conversation was captured in 9 chapters, 542 pages, and framed in ISBN 978-1-63848-418-9. Culture is the difference between composition and frame is just a pretext to show but not tell about composition and frame.